Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are planning a wonderful discussion about housing. My name is Renée Battle-Brooks. I'm the Executive Director of the Prince George's County Office of Human Rights, and it is my pleasure to host today's community conversation on accessing housing in partnership, of course, with our wonderful event collaborators, the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. Today, we are thrilled to have two great leaders in Prince George's County. We have Chazi Diggs, who is a licensed realtor in Maryland and the District of Columbia at Capital Structures Real Estate LLC. He has been a practicing agent for 2 years now. He specializes in first-time home buyers. Chazi serves as the president of the Young Professionals Network at the Prince George's County Association of Realtors for the 2021 and 2022 year. Also, he is on the Financial Empowerment Center for Prince George's County College. Chazi is born and raised in Prince George's County, and he went to Bishop McNamara, Towson University undergraduate in communication studies, and the University of Maryland University College to receive his MBA. So thank you, Chazi. Welcome. We are also thrilled to have Nathan Sims Jr., the Executive Director of the Prince George's County Housing Authority. Nathan joined and was confirmed by the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of Prince George's County to serve as the agency executive director on January 25th, 2021. So welcome. Mr. Sims has dedicated his 20-year career on the creation and preservation of housing opportunities and equitable economic development in diverse communities using federal, state, and local resources. These activities have been achieved through public-private partnerships, community engagement, interagency collaboration, and the use of various financing and leveraging tools, such as low-income housing tax credits, new market tax credits, federal and local rental subsidies, tax-exempt bonds, home funds, community development block grant funds, neighborhood stabilization program funds, property acquisition and disposition for development, local funded housing production trust fund, tax abatements, and credit subsidy financing. We're going to break all of that down because that's it. He has served, I'm just reading. Okay. In various management capacities with both federal and local government, notably the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, D.C. Department of Housing and Community Development, New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, Atlanta Housing Authority, and Daytona Beach Housing Authority. So thank you both so much for being here today. We're going to, absolutely. So we're going to focus on tips and traps of home buying and accessing housing for people of color and other minorities. And we can't wait to learn from both of you. So who would like to go first? We asked each to give a short little presentation, or long as the spirit moves, on their agencies and what information they would love to impart. So should I pick Chazi? I'll pick Chazi. Chazi, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Thank you.
So thank you for once again, thank you for having us today. I greatly appreciate being here. Thanks again to the Prince George's County Library System. You guys are doing great work. Appreciate it. And so I'm here today to discuss tips and tricks for home buying in the minority community. And so one of the first things that I noticed, well, let me go back. So as in my bio, I've been a licensed agent in Maryland and District of Columbia for 2 years now. And so one of the things that I've been more than fortunate to deal with is dealing with first-time home buyers. And so dealing with first-time home buyers is like you're in for a treat. And I say that because you're literally like picking them up from school and taking them home. You're asking them about their day. Like, you're really their mediator as well as their housing advocate, because this is for most people, this is their biggest purchase that they will make in their life. And we're talking about a primary investment. And so one of the things that I noticed just from my my time of dealing with first-time home buyers is that a lot of times people, they just avoid the pre-approval process. It's like one of those things where like they're kind of scared, like they just let it be what it is. They just go off their Credit Karma, which isn't always accurate, and they say, "Oh, my score isn't the best," or "My score is pretty good, but I'm still kind of scared. I want to get to that magic number of 700." And so, oftentimes, like, these programs that we have available here in the state of Maryland and District of Columbia, they start off with being able to get houses at like the 640 mark. Like, you can still get MMP. This is our Maryland mortgage program that offers a 3% no interest deferred loan over 10 years. It's a pretty great program. I recommend it. A lot of people love it. And so that's one of the things, just avoiding the pre-approval. And then for people who do get pre-approved, make sure that you guys understand that, okay, I'm here at this $400,000 price point. Do I really need to be looking at $400,000 houses? Is this something that I want to max out on? Because once you do the math and you say, oh, I don't want to go over a certain X amount of dollars per month in your mortgage, then you need to stand firm on your word at that point. Like, this is something like, you know better than anybody else how much house you can afford. And so just one of those things where people tend to have a little bit of a shiny object syndrome and trying to compare themselves to other people's, we're on social media all the time and trying to keep up with the Joneses in a way. But I try to make sure to let know to my agents and my clients that, it's something that this isn't your forever home. A lot of first-time home buyers, it's not your forever home. The 2021 statistic from NAR, they send out a home buyers and home sellers profile, and they told us that the average span for somebody living in a house is roughly 8 to 10 years before they're ready to move on to the next spot. And so, people out there got to understand that, the house that you buy in 2021 when it's just you is going to be different in 2031 if you're married or have kids or get that new job. And so I just want to, where I want people to understand about that, and also a lack of knowledge of the entire process, because I see out here sometimes it's a lack of due diligence that is being provided. Like, and when I say due diligence, I mean, okay, what's coming? Like, say for example, someone say, I want to live in Prince George's. Okay, let's live in Prince George. But what in which area are you looking for? Because this is something, like I stated earlier, this is a primary investment. What's coming in that area that you will be able to see that return on investment of your house? And so, okay, like the people in Largo, oh, we got a brand new hospital come in. That's an incentive. Or we have that new family services building going to Hampton Park. It's just one of those things where you're like, oh, this is I'm in the right spot. I'm in the right area. And so I want people out there do more homework about that. And also, I mean, of course, as we all know, redlining and things of that stuff has definitely impacted our area. And from, history has shown, I don't want to go too deep dive in it, but I will say that there seems to have been like an awakening that's been going on with being able to grant housing for everybody. And I say that because there's so many different programs out there, like the Maryland Mortgage Program, or like the DC Open Doors, which can provide up to $80,000 for first-time home buyers that would like to live in DC. But, the only caveat with some of these things is they're income restrictive. So you want to make sure that you're in that average to median price point. But like I said, like, this can be something that can definitely help people in the long run. And also, I read earlier that HUD has provided $47 million actually to fight housing discrimination. So they dispersed some funds throughout the community to help fight on the grassroots level. And of course, student loans. That student loans thing has been definitely changed around. We all know that minorities oftentimes take on so much more student loans in comparison to the majority. And so what happened? Now there's been a change in the calculation price for home buying. It used to be for, like, if somebody had $100,000 in loans, it would be calculated as 1% of their debt to income. For most people, they're not paying $1,000 a month on their student loans. They're paying a repay as you earn program. And so now, instead of it being that $1,000, it can be that $100 or that $75, which is that repay as you earn price. And that can definitely help affordability. Like that grants so much access to so many people out there. And then also now, I read earlier about how now Fannie Mac is able to give people the opportunity to include their rental history in the housing affordability, which is a great thing. Like, you get so many times people are pretty, they're a little scared because they're like, right now I'm paying $1,600 in rent. Oh, okay, cool. But now that can help boost your, like, it proves for that mortgage lender that, okay, well, they have proven that, they can pay this. Let's, give them a shot, as long as it still falls in within their, that the income ratio, of course, because the maximum for mortgage lenders is 43%. Some go a little bit higher, but, we recommend staying at 43%, that price point. And so that was pretty much the tips and tricks. And I gave you guys a lot of stats out there. So, but feel free to contact me. My @name is on Instagram is Chazi Diggs. So it's my name right here at the bottom. I'm the only Chazi Diggs you probably will ever meet. So I'll hand the floor over to Nathan.
Thank you, Chazi. Yes, Nathan. And we'll come back. I have lots of questions for you, okay. Chazi. Done.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. And thanks to the library library system who we've enjoyed a really good relationship with. And so, as you said in the intro, and thank you very much for that, Renee. I'm Nathan Sims, the executive director for the Housing Authority. And Chazi, just so you know, I'm an Archbishop Carroll graduate, so hey. But I'm very happy because homeownership is very passionate to me. And as you read through my bio, I've overseen down payment assistance programs both in the District of Columbia as well as New York City. So, it's going to be no different here in Prince George's County, at least in terms of from the authority. So just to let everybody know, just a little background about the Housing Authority of Prince George's County. Is one of four agencies that deal with housing for Prince George's County. We're the largest affordable housing provider in Prince George's County. We are kind of a lender in the sense we issue private activity bonds that could be facilitated for development. We used to do mortgages for home ownership. Kind of looking at that, try to see if we want to get back into that space. Maybe, Chazi, maybe you can let me know. And we're also a owner of properties, if you will. We have 5 public housing communities located throughout the county. And we also provide housing choice vouchers to many participants, over 5,500 to be exact, which equates to about 17,000 people. So we do a lot of different things. One of the things I want to kind of highlight is, we have for anybody who's a voucher holder who is on here today, we have the homeownership, housing choice voucher homeownership program, which allows you to purchase a home and supplement simply same way that you would do renting a property. It supplements the difference between what you can afford at 30% of your income, in the mortgage payment. So that I think that's one thing that is important. And we certainly are a land developer as well. And so we do have a number of different opportunities within our portfolio, which will be coming out over the next several years, really, in terms of construction that will be geared towards first-time home buyers, along with down payment assistance for that as well. So, that's a little bit about us. To Chazi's point, I think Chazi has said a lot of great things. I think preparation is key, right? And so, there's the prior preparation prevents poor performance. And I think this is, in terms of this is the largest purchase that you will make. I think that is absolutely true in life. And you have to kick the tires with a number of different people. One, know where you qualify. And that can be scary. But people should also know that there are a number of housing counseling agencies within Prince George's County that can help you evaluate your credit situation, help you with credit cleanup, can tell you where you are today. No one necessarily has to start with, I want to buy a house today and buy one tomorrow. Some people are in that position. Others can be prepared for that because you need to understand all of the things that you're going to get into in terms of additional costs, taxes, maintaining your home. But I will say some of the positives is, like rent is not necessarily something that is fixed and stable, but a mortgage payment can be. And so that helps. And, that's just something to be focused on. So there are housing counseling agencies that can help you in terms of the preparation. Realtors, I think, are an important part. But like anything else, you got to kick the tire and make sure you get the right realtor, right? Do your research. A friend of a friend may not be the best realtor for you. And doing your research and talking to different people to see what their experience is like, I think is very much important. Learning about, resources out here is going to be very much important. A lot of people don't know about a lot of down payment assistance programs at the county level. Sometimes your local bank or credit union provides things for free, right? I mean, not the free, but, that they have, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 goes a long way. And so I think it's very much important to kind of learn about what we refer to as alphabet soup, but, just learn about all of the different types of programs that are out there, how they work together. What is the best loan product for you? Somebody may say that that's the best product for you, but what does it do? It's like anything else. Before you sign your name on the dotted line, what are the options that you have? Is it based on your credit score? Is it based on, just what you can afford? What is the benefits in terms of what's being put before you? Because that's where things kind of go left. I mean, you don't want to be put into a bad house. The importance of an inspection is very much important. An inspection report, just making sure that what you're purchasing is what it says it is. That if there is anything, if it's an existing home and it had prior issues, that it's identified and it's been addressed. Same thing with new construction as well. Just making sure that there's nothing faulty, or because it takes a while to sometimes, other times it doesn't, but sometimes it takes a while to find out if something's faulty or not. In a home, and somebody may have moved on, and it's hard to kind of do that, go back and, claim whatever you need to claim. But you got to, work through the process to understand who is that realtor, who is that person selling that home. What are the, how do I know that I'm very much protected? Because this is a business like anything else. And some people are very much committed to it for, just the sheer fact that they're providing housing or linking people to housing. But there's commissions, there are fees, there are all sorts of things being made, and not everybody. And this is certainly not, saying that there are bad people, primarily bad people in the space. There are not. I mean, there's bad people in everything we do in life. But, there are some people who are just focused on making a buck. And you don't want that to be done at your expense. So you want to do as much research as you can, not, well, I really want this house so bad that you'll ignore everything else just to get in it, because when you're in it and things don't work out the way you want to, these flags were really preventable. So I would say, get to do as much research as you possibly can about the people that you're involved with, the programs, just to make sure that, you're fully aware of what's working and what's not working for you.
Well, thank you. That's a lot as well. This is really good. So let's go back just for a moment. Chazi, you mentioned redlining. For those who may not understand that concept, could you unpack it just a little bit, explain what it is, the historical perspective, and really how it still impacts?
Okay. And so let's go back. Okay, original predatory loan programs.
I think Chazi's having a little bit of. Yep. Okay. We can hear you now. But
I'm sorry.
We missed
Hello?
all of your answer.
All right, cool. Perfect. All right. All right, cool. And so one of the basic premise of redlining was just that it made it harder for Black people to get loans for houses. And so when I say made it harder, the overall process of it was just so much more worse than for the white counterparts. And so one of the things that it did was it gave people, to build these suburbia, like white people was able to build suburbias and all that other stuff. Whereas Black people and minorities, they didn't get that same opportunity when that suburbia boom happened, which led to basically we're still seeing the problems from it today. And redlining is so much bigger than just lending. It was in more so, it was also in like getting the primary, like projects and community development, things of that. It was so much bigger than just housing. It was okay. Like one of the things that I saw on the news the other day was just how like where I want to say Anacostia is like the Anacostia metro station. It's one of these metro stations, and so they ended up building the metro over and where it was a graveyard. And now, like today, like they're still getting graves in Virginia. It's like one of those things where like, how did that happen? How is this okay? I mean, of course now like we're trying to piece it all together, but that's over 1,000 tombstones, and people aren't going to be able to get closure. That's it's being driven to this mansion in Virginia. It was a real big story. I want to say a month ago, because it ended up being like a cross state, cross government initiative. Like they had Angela also. I mean, not Angela. Larry Hogan and Muriel Bowser and the governor of Virginia all because it's just expanded across all three jurisdictions.
Interesting.
And it's like, wow, this is something that's like, it's bigger than just houses. It's the opportunities, it's organizations. It's okay, let's get this initiative in our county too. It's like one of those things where it's so much bigger, and we're still seeing the remnants of it today, even in like the appraisal process, and where you see so many of these viral moments, or like the like right in, I want to say in Langley Park. It's like one of those, it was a real big story about a month or so ago where they had these, it was melting. And I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
There, now we can.
Am I here? Hello?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear us?
Hello?
There.
All right, cool. I was saying Langley Park is like, yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry about that. And so, I was saying like Langley, it was a real big apartment where it was a diverse apartment, but the landlords, they weren't giving the best conditions to these minorities. And it was a real big story. It's like, because I guess the landlord's premise was that they have to live in this regardless, so it don't really matter if we fix it up or not, which is a whole different other issue, landlord-tenant issues.
Right.
And so that's my little 2 cents.
No, that's good.
We still see it today, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think just, the term redlining literally was a red line that they drew around neighborhoods where I guess people couldn't get insurance or whatever it was, so that it ended up, as Chazi said, it has these repercussions generations after generation, because if you're not going to develop there and you put a red line around this neighborhood, no one, right? So it just kind of, it starves the child, basically. So thank you. So Nathan, with your amazing HUD background, I wonder, not to put you on the spot, but if you could give sort of foundation, what is the Fair Housing Act? What does it mean? What does it encompass?
It's so much about the way we live, right? I mean, it really covers a ton of different things in terms of making sure that we are free. Housing is really free of discrimination. Discrimination comes in multiple forms. That it runs kind of in tandem. This is my talking, not necessarily the HUD piece, but I mean, the American Disabilities Act. I mean, it becomes a lot of that. Making sure that we don't have situations where people are discriminated against for a number of different reasons, that accommodations are made when they're requested, to help with all sorts of different things, physical being one of the main drivers that we hear every day, but it's things that you can't see as well. And so the Fair Housing Act really is a tool and a very strong law that protects a lot of different individuals in everyday life, whether they realize it or not, from how they rent, who they rent to, what are remedies to be able to get certain things to happen. There is a lot of regulatory life and legs around that.
Right. No, thank you. That's good. And I think the important thing for everyone to understand that it just, as you said, it's rental as well as purchasing. It's
Correct.
in every aspect, passed in 1968. And we're still fighting the good fight. We're, you know, right. It's 50, however many years.
And we're still protected classes. Yeah, and I was saying we're still adding protected classes.
Yeah, protected classes is a big piece. You know, the Chazi, you know, talked about the issues with appraisals, which have always been kind of an issue, but really just, you know, you think it's gone away, but no, it manifests, and it's a way to kind of keep investment really down. You know, as we said before, there's a number of people who require all sorts of consideration under it, and you know, it starts out very simple where people were not doing things, and now it's a lot of people have paid for it for not doing those things.
Yeah. And you know, what's interesting, actually, the impetus for this program today was an article that I read. And it's like, I've got to get Nathan, we've got to get Chazi, we've got to get, you know, we have to have this discussion, because it was an article about a mother and daughter in New York City that lost their brownstone to, you know, the person, they purchased it through a HUD program, foreclosure, and they ended up losing, and they paid, I think it was $130,000. And over the years they lost, it was either 2.2 million or one, but they were literally cheated out of it. And she purchased it, the daughter, at 21 with her mother, and just sort of, the article really went on to talk about redlining and about appraisals, and how, you know, when you talk about the systems of discrimination, the systems of racism that are in place, you know, and Nathan, you just talked about it, sort of, you know, the appraisal plays a really important piece. If you're trying to, let's say you are a minority, a homeowner, and you're trying to sell or refinance, right? So Nathan, talk a little bit about that and kind of what it looks like. And if Chazi, you want to chime in, what are some things that we can do if we are the homeowner and now we're trying to get an appraisal, and you know, right, the statistics show that brown and black people, the appraisal is all, I won't say always, but enough for the numbers to show that it is significantly lower with the same property, right? So how do we overcome these biases? What do we do?
So I think part of it, and this is really a big thing, because I mean, there's an entire White House task force strictly on this issue right now. And I think that it's very much important for people to kind of, you know, understand, you know, who is that appraiser? Right? What is that? You know, because that appraiser not necessarily is going to work, doesn't work for you, right? They're going to be representing, normally they're going to be representing the buyer. And on the flip side too, if you're buying, you know, like, you want to make sure that person is not trying to keep you out of a neighborhood. So, because it's all about value, right? Loan to value. We hear about that all the time. And so, you know, usually it's going to be no more than 80-85% of loan to value in some ways, or a little bit higher depending on the program. And so, you know, it's just important to understand your neighborhood, right? If you're selling, or even if you're purchasing, look to see what some of the comps were, right? Like, what are some of the subtle differences? You know, information is always readily available. It's a couple of keystrokes away. And then sometimes people don't know what to necessarily look for, but you want to look at and see what homes were sold for in that community and know the difference, just so you can ballpark it. You know, like an appraiser, that's a whole different science. But if you can come back and say, this is what this sold for, what were the adjustments? You know, you want to get it to what are the specific points that differ from something else. Right. And that sometimes, you know, is not clear as it could be, but at least if you have a basis in saying this same home sold down the block for $50,000 more, right? And you're saying mine is worth $50,000 less, right? What is the issue, right? And so, is it the condition of the home versus the condition of what was sold? Is it the amenities, like it's a garage versus not garage? Those things, yeah, there are factors that go into it, but they should be able to clearly explain what that is. And so, you know, and they should give you comps. And if you feel at the end of the day that that's not a worthwhile comp, because we get to, you know, no matter if you're a multifamily or single family, you're going to be able to look at something like, that's not the same comp, that's not comparable at all. But for those who are not as savvy in terms of being able to do that, just start by pulling information and seeing what homes have sold for in that area, right? And so that you can at least have a basis. And I got to be clear too, there has to be a bit of truth serum that goes along with it, right? Like every home's not going to sell for $1 million,
Right.
But if you're armed properly and know, okay, this is what this home sold for. This is what amenities it has. At least you can look and say, well, I have the same or I don't have the same. So maybe it'll be a little less. So you can ballpark it a little bit. And I think that that's important to really kind of begin to do the homework. And if you feel that that person has done something fraudulent, you can begin to start to contact the proper authorities to be able to say that I feel that, this person has done something that is not on the up and up. And that could be calling the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity. That can be calling someone at the county level or the state level, because these individuals are licensed and they cannot be out here doing fraudulent work.
So that's really great. So what I heard you say, Nathan, and really it's what Chazi and Nathan have both been saying, really the theme thus far is preparation, homework. Like, know what you're doing. And if you don't know, ask or research. So, figure out who that appraiser is, knowing what the comps are, the comparative houses or a property that is in the neighborhood. Making sure they give you that detail and make sure they explain how they came about, why they did it, and then filing a complaint if there are. Chazi, do you have anything else to add on the issue of appraisers?
Yeah. So one of the things that also is a great benefit that people can do. Do you think that a number has came too low in the value of your house, you get a second opinion on the appraisal if you need be. And it's always, it's not always the most beneficial for the buyer, but we're talking about for you, for the seller. We're trying to make sure you get the best, your best bang for your buck. Whichever you may deem that to be, we can still do that where you're like, okay, it came back $20,000 under. You still have that right that right of refusal. Like you can end the contract right there if need be, because people, that negotiation, when we're talking about those type of values, that's something that definitely can be done. But also, in terms of like I know you asked about the refinancing as well. Another thing that also happens is when people get a certain amount of equity, they want to start getting that mortgage insurance off for those, and that's when you need that BPO. That's called the broker, a broker price opinion on a house. And so that's when, like, sometimes the lender goes out and asks a realtor, okay, can you go out there and evaluate the house? Can we get some comps on this so we can see, all right, is this something that is worth our time or not? And so it's like a balancing act, of course, at the end of the day, because we're talking about something that is done by professionals, but they're still human at the end of the day. And so we only can use what we can see, which is, okay, this house right here they may be renovated from top to bottom versus yours may be a little bit outdated, or like the roof needs repair. Those type of things factor into your overall value of your home.
Yeah. So two things. One, to people that would say, yeah, but appraisals cost, if I'm the seller, right? Right. And so I think your point is valid, sort of that cost benefit analysis, right? To get a second, depending on how much it costs. And if you think that you've been under appraised significantly, maybe it is worth it, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing to speak to, right, are they called desk appraisals now, where they don't even come out and they just kind of, right?
Yeah, that was a big thing in COVID. They was doing virtual appraisals, which is basically they was just, because the same thing happens in insurance adjusting, like in disaster repairs and things that not everybody is going to go see Hurricane Ida despair. They'll have somebody on the ground in the field. Okay, can you give me back the report of how it is? So it was that similar kind of thing, because of COVID, they weren't going inside of the house, so they was only evaluating from the outside of the house. How would that's when it was it was a little tricky because like, okay, my outside may be a little jacked up, but my inside, we got everything. And so it's one of those things where, but luckily now, I mean, of course we're still in COVID, but at least now, like we're going back to that in-person appraisal process because like we mentioned, like I mentioned earlier, that this is just one of those things where if you're doing it virtually, like I prefer the in-person for like those type of things because that's something that can make or break a deal. And so when you're talking about doing a virtual appraisal and it come back under, now we got to see, why did you do that? what was your basis? Like what you said, okay, let's compare. Okay, were we comparing colonials to colonials? Did you even check to see how far this house is away from the neighborhood school versus the other one that you compare it to that can maybe like 20 minutes away? And so this is one of those things where, I'm glad they're doing in person again.
Yeah. So I want to shift gears just a little bit to talk about barriers that maybe Black and brown folks face. And I think one of those is access to capital, right? Because when you talk about this whole generational wealth and how it's built up and how in some of our neighborhoods, it just doesn't exist. So can each of you speak to that and sort of what are lessons learned? What can we do?
I would say being on this side, I tell people a lot of different kind of things. I mean, I've learned over years, the programs that generational wealth plays a huge role in homeownership. It's the difference between someone having to access a federal or state or local program versus getting a loan from their parent, right? Or gift from their parent to purchase their home. Some of it is knowing proper programs. Just to give an example, I mean, it's obviously a jurisdiction, different jurisdiction, but for DC, one of the things I told people is be, familiar with affordable dwelling unit or inclusionary zoning, because those were units that were produced in the private marketplace that were affordable, right? and most people did not know that. So understanding the different programs. But what I have learned is, it's important for us as municipalities to produce first-time homebuyer opportunities from the land that we own, that we seek to develop, the deals that we kind of negotiate to make sure that people are represented, because in a cash is king kind of market, a lot of people miss out on opportunities because the wheels of government are a little bit slow. I mean, that's intentional, right? That's the founding fathers principle that's kind of built in making sure that there is transparency. So, my mindset in any time I serve in these roles is, how can we have a situation where it's first time home buyer versus first time home buyer, not in a versus kind of sense, but that's your audience. That's who you're trying to gear these opportunities to. And so I think that is a pretty big deal. I think that people have to kind of understand too, there's a balance from a public policy standpoint as well. We're very much focused on trying to make sure that individuals have a first time opportunity, but we're also thinking about later on down the road for the next person that comes behind. As I tell people is like, listen, most of our programs, not most of ours, but most programs are focused on that first time. And as restrictions go away, I got to pay if the next person comes in who was just like you or qualified just like you when you bought, then I have to pay more, or we have to subsidize more for that same home. So there are things from a public policy perspective when people say, well, they're restricting this, they're restricting that. We're having a balance, at the end of the day. Chazi talked about where the down payment assistance was in DC at, like 80,000. When I was there, it was like 25,000, 40, it went to 40,000, and now it's 80,000. As I remind people in other municipalities like San Francisco only has a lottery system for their down payment assistance, which is up to $800,000. So public policy matters. Yeah. And I know people always say like, why are you restricting my equity? It's not restricting, but it is a wealth creator. And I think that we need to be, a little bit more savvy in terms of how to connect to those resources. And I said, I mean, your local bank, your local credit union, all of these different places have an interest in home ownership. And I think that that's very much important. You're seeing employers, you know, who are relocating to our area or considering expanding their operations. One of the things that they ask for is, what is the housing like, right? How much does it cost? Because if it's too much and not enough to support the people that they employ, they're not going to go there. So it really matters at the end of the day. But it is a wealth driver. But it takes a lot of education, a lot of patience. But it is definitely worth it, I think, at the end of the day.
Wonderful. You use the term equity. For those who may not know, what is equity and why is it important?
Well, I mean, it's important because it's real money, but it really is the difference between what you're paying, what you owe, and what your home is valued, right? It's the difference between. And so anything above that is really equity that, you know, values go up, you know, usually. And so as they go up, your mortgage goes down. You know, that difference is really, you know, the value to you. So if it's worth, you bought it for $280, now worth $315, you know, there's your delta right there in terms of what the value is. So it is important. It really is important.
Yeah.
Yep. And that,
Chazi,
like that example that Nathan gave, like that's the difference between somebody being able to renovate their house or you sell the house versus, all right, well, I can't really do that right now because I'm paying what I owe and it's the same amount. Like it stayed at that versus somebody who may, you know, they can say, oh, now we can do this addition or we can add a deck in the backyard. You can do that type of opportunity, which definitely was still then at that point put you ahead of the game as well, because by the time you're ready to sell, like if it's at 360, you're still pocketing some, you know, a little bit of pocket change to go figure out what your next step is.
Yeah. Closing costs, Chazi. Does Maryland still have some of the highest closing costs in the nation?
Yeah. So with the closing costs, of course, it's like one of those things where it's like one of those best kept secrets, but it shouldn't be a secret about it because, you know, it's like so oftentimes where on Instagram or like when you're seeing things like these programs, they're being offered at 3% down payment assistance, and people think, like the consumer think, oh, that's all I need to get into a house. So what about the $500 or the $600 to get an appraisal or get a home inspection? And then most, like, you may or may not even, you may end up walking away from that house after that home inspection because you're like, okay, this is too much. It's an old water heater, old roof, old everything, and I still want to paint the house. I want to get it professionally painted. We're at like a $20,000, you know, or more. Then you're like, I don't really want to pay that, and then you're able to walk away. Versus, it's just one of those things where I want people to be more cognizant of, basically. And so the closing cost is the appraisal, it's the home inspection, it's the type of loan. Like sometimes your loan, it may have a loan origination fee, or sometimes some of these down payment assistance programs, they want you to buy a point where you can get that money back, you know, because at the end of the day, it's a business, of course. They're giving you $15,000. Like the least that you can do is have 1%. They don't that whole idea of zero down is not the best. I guess it's to get you in the door, but it's not to get you through the door. If that makes sense. And so you want to have some type of capital saved up, because like what I tell friends that, okay, you saved up X amount of dollars. All right, you're going to use that for your down payment. You're going to get a debit card. I mean, you're going to get a credit card just for that. Like, what is your, like, how long are you going to wait to go without, so wait for cable? And then you just like those things where you want people to be more understanding of that. Okay, the closing costs, and the down payment, realistically, we want you to save up like 5% total value, and that's just if there's some type of hidden fees, or like even sometimes municipality, that's a special taxation zone, because they have, you know, you're paying for that extra trash day, or you're paying for a community, you know, more community involvement. And so it's one of those things where people need to consider that. That's need to be one of the first questions. This is special taxation zone, and that's most oftentimes disclosed in seller's disclosures, right, an offer. And you want to compare those numbers, because say, for example, special taxation zone, this is between a $1,600 mortgage and an $800.
Right. You were breaking up just a little bit, but we did get the gist. And it brings
Okay.
me to the next. Limited financing, sometimes the barriers, right? Conventional versus some of the others. Can somebody break that down and really how the type of financing may affect whether if you are a buyer, whether your offer is accepted? Again, from this article that I was reading, and just really some of the tricks.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we know that I've noticed basically being in FHA has a bad connotation of it just because the appraisal process, whatever that appraisal value is at, it sticks on that for at least 90 days. And so you can't, say for example, you get it under appraised or undervalued, that has to stick with the seller for the next 90 days or so. And so that's one of those things where people are like, I'm not sure, but now, like I stated earlier, like we're figuring out new ways to make it more competitive for the FHA buyer, because FHAs are most oftentimes it has a negative connotation of it, where it's a lower credit score person, or they're using a down payment assistance program. But now, like with all these great programs like MMP and PG pathways to purchase, is granting people that access to, okay, we can get this done in a 30 to 35 day range. And now we can compete with a conventional person who said they can close in 25 days or 30 days. But when we start, like you mentioned earlier, Nathan, about those cash people, sometimes you gotta. The game is the game. It's like at the end of the day, you're getting 0%. I mean, you're getting 3% financing, and you just want to make sure, like, you can't compete. I mean, you can compete, but sometimes you may get trumped by somebody who can close in 2 weeks. Could they have cash? Like, as a seller, you would like, why would I can get this done without, and they may add like a home inspection is only for informational purposes. And when I say home inspection for information purposes, they just want to know, okay, how bad is the house? And they don't care. Like, in some instances, some people will be able to pay the difference between that appraised value and the home sale price value, and they'll list that when they'll make it known in a general addendum of the contract to say, okay, it's at 400, we can, and the appraisal is at 380. We'll pay that difference between 380 and 400. You got to just like, at the end of the day, what's for you is for you, and at the end of that wasn't for you, and so you got to just understand that as well.
No, that's good. What some people may not know in terms of real estate agents, right? They're not always your advocate, like the sellers, real estate buyers. Like, can you explain what that is and some of the nuances?
Yeah. So say, for example, let me start over. Before any contract is signed, and call it in our organization, our community, exclusive buyers agency agreement. An exclusive buyers agency agreement establishes that, okay, I'm your agent. Before any signatures or something like that, is that agent that you will be signing with is working with the seller at that point. They're doing them, like, they're working for it because they don't have any proof that we are in a relationship. And so one of the things that I suggest to people, make sure that you guys interview the whatever agent you feel most comfortable with. We want you to go with a person that feels like family, not the one with the most followers, not the one pushing the Tesla around the corner. Like, at the end of the day, that's not going to help you get the house. That'll make you look cool when you guys take a picture outside holding the key, like, oh, we did it. But like, at the end of the day, like, you want to make sure that we work together, we mesh well, because sometimes real estate gets pretty tricky. It's a cutthroat business. It really is. At the end of the day, like, everybody has to find their way to make sure that their clients get the best deal for them. And so as a buyer's agent, you want to make sure, all right, we're not getting messed around in this transaction. Or oftentimes, sometimes people are just like what Nathan said earlier. Some agents are just in it for the check. They're in there for that commission and call it a day. And then also, like, sometimes what you see with these new construction homes, people think that, oh, I don't need a buyer's agent in this transaction because I'm working with the new construction sales agent. But like, at the end of the day, that new construction person is getting paid by that new construction builder. So you're going in there 2-on-1 from the jump, and they, this is your biggest purchase, like we said. And so you want to make sure that, you have at least a little tag team partner to, jump in with you to make the fight a little bit more even, because, at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah. That reminds me, Prince George's County at one point sort of led the way, unfortunately, on the predatory lending issue that took place in the wasn't it like 2006, 7, 8, 9, somewhere there, right? So how can first-time homeowners spot if there are any predatory lenders still out there? I'm sure there are, but what should people be looking for, and what to do if?
Okay. And so one of the things that I suggest people ask their lender is, are you all a mortgage broker or a mortgage originator? So a mortgage originator, that's the person. If I'm going to Bank of America is going to be the person to write the loan. Most times they have, they're doing initiatives for first time home buyers and things of that nature, which is pretty great. And then versus a mortgage broker, they'll go to the Bank of Chazi and then get pre-approved, and the Bank of Chazi goes as Mid-Atlantic Bank. We go as Tri-State Area Bank. We go as a bank in California that you may never even meet until it's time for that first payment. And that's one of those things where it's like, okay, is this really what's best for my circumstance? But sometimes like that may suit you, because you may be, you may not have the best credit situation. You may not have the best. You may not be able to qualify for like the MMP or things of that nature. Anything can happen. But just make, like what we stated earlier, figure out what is best for you. It may not be best for somebody to go to a mortgage broker or a mortgage originator. It's just case-to-case situation. And also just want to make sure that, like, okay, you understand what is going on. What are we doing with this like your closing costs, your closing statements? What are we doing here with this water and sewage deferment? What is that? Ask your realtor, what is that? That's basically, it's like a extra amount of money that goes into to make sure if between the day that the house was listed and the day that the house was closed, that when the new buyer comes in, their Pepco bill is at $0.00. And so that's one of those things where people ask, like, okay, what is that? And then sometimes like your tax escrow, sometimes mortgage lenders, they require a certain amount of your tax, your home insurance be put into like a escrow, if you will, and basically to keep it current. And so just little things like that you guys want to make sure that you're out there. Like, you want to know, like, okay, this called the CD and the real estate closing disclosure, is this accurate to what I'm supposed to be paying in 60 days?
Okay, excellent. And Nathan, what do you have to say about how to spot through your lens? Yeah.
I think it's really about education. I mean, I go back to saying, I mean, the county provides, funding to housing counseling agencies across the county to help a number of different people and use them, right? I mean, it may cost you a Saturday or so, but trust me, it's going to help you in terms of the evaluation of your credit, making sure that you know all of the things that kind of go into purchasing a home, knowing how to spot certain things, and really trying to learn about different programs, right? Because I think to Chazi's point, like, if something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And there are a number of different programs that can help people for, you have a different credit score. Okay, that's fine. That could help you. No problem. It covers more loans of value than what I would have to do, or there's down payment assistance. So there are good things about doing research and knowing what's out there. Not asking a lot of questions will get you in a loan really quick that you are going to regret probably on day one. And that's not what you want to do. So use the resources that are out there, that are not going to cost you anything because they're being paid by the county and by the state to do these types of things. And I think it'll be more beneficial than detrimental at the end of the day.
And in the closing couple of minutes here, what would you say, in some circles, there are debates whether to rent or to buy. For those that, it is something that is attainable. What, give sort of the elevator speech on pros and cons, like why is it good to rent or why is it better to buy?
Well, I would say know yourself, right? Not everybody. I know we talk about this a lot internally that, we sell people on the American dream is to be a homeowner. Not everybody's cut out to be a homeowner for a number of different reasons, right? Some people don't want that degree of responsibility. And so you should kind of understand it's an investment. That means that you have to continuously not only profit, you're not going to only profit from it, but you have to continuously reinvest and reevaluate and keep it up. And if that's not what you're willing to do, that may not be a situation for you. Now, on the flip side, I tell people that rent is not a cheap thing in our area, right? And it is not a cheap thing. It is something that will continue to go up because our market, no matter where you are, in Prince George's County, state of Maryland, DC, Maryland, Virginia, it continues to go up. And that's, at least having a having a mortgage, that's a fixed payment, right? So at least that gives you the degree of security that, hey, my payment is not going to change versus when it's time for me to re-up my lease. I'm paying more. And at least, and I will say lastly, in that vein, is obviously the tax benefits. Really, I'm not a tax attorney, so I always have to get that. But there are the tax benefits in terms of the tax code that are beneficial to a number of people who own homes.
Excellent.
Thank you. Chazi, last word.
All right. And so, like what Nathan said, rent, this is really based on if you know yourself. You plan on being, like, for one, Prince George's County, we know that the average rental payment and the average mortgage payment is pretty mirrors each other. And so, like, do you plan on being here for a long, like this, somewhere, like the rule of thumb in real estate, if you're planning on being somewhere for more than 3 years, it's probably best that you end up owning somewhere. But also in the same time, know yourself, because if you're in your primary residence and your laundry goes out, like your washer and dryer goes out, not everybody can say, all right, I need to pay this $1,800 and still pay mortgage at the end of the month, versus it just depends on a preference thing, because also in the same token, not everybody wants to do that. And I understand that. Like, I can't make you, like, at the end of the day, you're the one sleeping in your house at the end of the night, but I can definitely guide you to the best, appreciating asset and making sure that you're, going the right direction. I know great plumbers, know great, people to understand that at the end of the day, because roughly the average amount of home maintenance that is needed every year it ranges between $35,000 to $5,000 a year, just to make sure, general upkeep and things of that nature. And, because, like, also in the same time, because we know that the most oftentimes, like, it takes a while for something to break. And so, like, we're talking about like a roof, that's a 10 to 15 year thing. We're talking about like a sink flooding or things that takes some time to flood, and it gives you that preparation to, okay, let me put this in my emergency fund to be able to understand that, okay, it's probably best for me to save this extra money for a little bit more while longer, because it's been a little too quiet and everything's been too perfect in the house. So something's like a dishwasher, fridge, anything like that. But also in the same token, having home insurance, like making home warranty, American Home Shield, all that other great stuff is great programs that people, sometimes opt out of because they're like, oh, if it breaks, it breaks. It's like Apple Care, it's like one of those things where people are like, I'm good on Apple Care, but then you end up walk outside and drop your phone in a month from now, and you're like, oh shoot. So it's just great to protect yourself from all bases as well. And then also, if you ever get thinking in your mind that it gets too much to repair, you can always sell your home as is, which is, gives you that opportunity. I'm not about to fix anything about this house. I'm tired of this house. I'm ready to get out of here. And so, protects from all angles.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. This has been really informative. Yes, we are definitely going to have you back. You can't escape us now.
Thank you.
And I'm walking in. Chazi said he knew plumbers and other people. locking his number in. So thank you so much for spending this hour with us and helping us understand a little bit more about housing. So we want to thank all of those that tuned in today. I hope that everyone learned something to tell a friend. Again, we thank the library for hosting this community conversation today. Just a couple of things. We invite you to another event tonight. It starts at 7 p.m. along with our partners at the library system. We will be hosting, and Kyla Hannington and I will have the privilege of interviewing civil rights icon Bob Zellner in conversation about his book, The Wrong Side of Murder Creek. It's a really, really good book. So I hope that those of you that can will join us at 7 p.m. tonight and hear his story. We also want to give a brief plug, again, the Office of Human Rights, that is us. We invite you tomorrow to a unity rally. We're holding it at 2:30. We'll meet at 8900 Good Luck Road in Lanham, and I think Kyla will put that up on the screen. It's the Seabrook Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we're going to have a short walk, a unity walk in the afternoon to show that hate is not wanted in Prince George's County and that we are all one. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Chazi. Thank you, Nathan, and we will see hopefully some tonight at 7, and if not, the next community conversation. Thanks. Bye-bye.